We're going to be talking about crypto today as we hike this trail at Babbler Memorial. Grayscale ETF is in talks with JP Morgan and Goldman Sachs about being a qualified participant in its ETF. Now, I don't know if Grayscale is actually going to be accepted by the 10th because Grayscale is not the one of the two that has a deadline on that date. But JP Morgan and Goldman Sachs, those are very interesting choices. You know why? Because JP Morgan has a CEO that believes crypto is a scam, and they definitely want to be a registered participant in all these ETFs. So it's do as I say, not as I do, because JP Morgan itself obviously believes these Bitcoin ETFs are going to be big. Otherwise, they really wouldn't want to be part of these Bitcoin ETFs. So then Grayscale being in talks with JP Morgan and Goldman Sachs, that's definitely a big plus, and it shows that they are actually getting stuff through. Goldman Sachs is interesting. You know why? You remember where Gary Gensler worked? That's right, Goldman Sachs is Genslerville. If you don't remember, Gary Gensler was the youngest partner ever at Goldman Sachs, and he was there for over 30 years, so he has a lot of connections there. So maybe Gary all this time was just trying to buy time so Goldman Sachs can get their ducks in a line and actually be in on the game with Bitcoin. So we have one Gensler affiliated like financial fund and a big bank that basically Grayscale is talking to in order to be an active participant or authorized participant in its proposed ETF. So all these like SEC related things, all the big banks, they're getting their ducks in a line and they're falling in line with the Bitcoin ETF. And Bloomberg actually reported this, that they had held talks with both banks for the role, investment banks for the role, citing sources familiar with the matter. It comes less than a week after Grayscale filed an amended S3 application. And Jake Chervinsky has said, it took over 10 years, but we're finally on the verge of having a spot Bitcoin ETF approved in the USA. Many deserve credit for this milestone, but chiefly Grayscale and its lawyers who had the guts to fight this out in court and won. Obviously, he is referring to the case where Grayscale pawned the SEC, and that's why they're reconsidering all these ETFs, and they're going to accept these ETFs because they really don't have a choice. An authorized participant plays a key role in managing an ETF as it facilitates the creation and redemption of shares in a fund. An ETF issuer can name multiple financial firms to act as authorized participants, and obviously Grayscale and Goldman Sachs all want to be in on the game. ETF applicants aren't required to name their authorized participants in their respective S1 or S3 filings, meaning that other financial firms still have a window to come on board. So it could be more financial firms, and I think we'll see more and more come on board as we get to that time. So the thing is, like, while JP Morgan has already been named as an authorized participant, so JP Morgan is actually being in more than one. So like all that stuff about Jamie Dimon said about Bitcoin being like a scam and all that stuff, that's just all for show. He knows he wants to be in on this. We know he wants to be in on this, so he should just stop pretending. And of course, Goldman Sachs could potentially join other Wall Street giants in being an authorized participant. Jane Street is another one. Goldman Sachs has actually been fairly neutral, and that's like Gary Gensler. They've actually been fairly neutral on the Bitcoin ETF and cryptocurrencies, but however, JP Morgan has been very, very anti-cryptocurrencies. But they might actually have to start changing their stance now as they are authorized participants in the Bitcoin ETF. So if they say anything anti-Bitcoin, it won't have as much of an effect. China wants to crack down on crypto some more. And of course, they call crypto a corruption channel. Chinese officials know a lot about corruption because they are all about corruptions, starting at the top with Xi Jinping, obviously. But they don't like crypto, obviously, because they believe it can challenge the Chinese yuan. So they want the Chinese state media has tried to crack down on bribery using the use of cryptocurrencies. And obviously, there's going to be a lot of government officials with this bribery as well. Like, they want to make the appearance that they actually care about the stuff, but everyone knows it goes down, it goes on underneath the surface. So they have a call to crack down on bribery, use the use of cryptocurrency and other forms of electronic payment, has appeared on the website of China's Legal Daily. They haven't actually banned fiat money in China, obviously, so a lot of the bribes just come in with stacks of actual cash, and that's very, very hard to track. Obviously, they don't want to get rid of the honeypots for the politicians, so they're going after another scapegoat in crypto. The publication cited a number of legal scholars who participated in the annual China Integrity and Legal Research Association meeting where punishing new forms of corruption was a major topic. Now, China, if you don't know, is rife with corruption in like more of the regional governments. The central government definitely has corruption, but it's more of the regional governments that have the most corruption. That's because like even though the regional governments are subservient to the central government, it's hard for the central government to keep an eye on all the regions. So like, exhortation of like land, money and stuff is very, very common for regional officials. Every once in a while, you'll see like the central government get pissed off and issue some like really harsh punishments, but that's just to make up the appearance that they actually care. They know what goes on, and it's kind of an accepted part of the system. Now, I've been in China before. I've asked like in like personal conversations with taxi drivers across the nation. They all know what's happening. He's like, yeah, you know what? I'm pissed off that they do it, but if I were in their position, I would do it too. I'm like, there's the problem right there, because you can't find a person that actually won't do it. So that's a big issue right now with basically like all the corruption that's actually going on, because everyone does it, and everyone who's anyone would do it if they actually got the chance. There's plenty of hidden channels in there, but they're trying to get enraged over the crypto hidden channel, because obviously the crypto hidden channel is an easy scapegoat, and they have something to actually go after right now to show the people we actually care. So basically, Chinese rulers have long used campaigns against corruption to sideline rivals and consolidate power. And the thing is that I don't know if there's like rivals in cryptocurrency realistically, but it's true that like they basically have campaigns against corruption, but they only find corruption within their enemies. But I don't really know how many of Xi's enemies are actually using cryptocurrency. So I think this is just a crackdown to have the central government control the economy even more than it actually has now. And Wuhan University Law School professor Mo Hongxin mentioned Bitcoin by name and said virtual currencies, anonymity, and difficult traceability provide natural convenience for illegal and criminal activities. Obviously, all the academics are going to fall in line with the central government because they don't want to go to jail. So will all the media, because the media is directly controlled by the state. There are no differing opinions. Yes, if you're in China, you have CCTV 1, CCTV 2, CCTV 3, CCTV 4, but it's all still CCTV. And because it's all still CCTV, it's all the same thing. They're just like, they just put a different face up for every single channel. So that's what's happening in China. He's probably trying to use it to remove some political opponents, but he's also trying to remove it because he wants direct control over all the economy, and he doesn't actually want people using Bitcoin to get around like the digital yuan and the state-run Gestapo, basically. So that's the deal with China. John Deaton, the pro-XRP lawyer, wants to testify before Congress. And this could actually prove very, very problematic for the SEC and Gary Gensler. Now, I don't know if he's going to get to testify before Congress and the SEC, but he wants to. So a prominent lawyer known for his advocacy in behalf of cryptocurrency holders has publicly volunteered to testify at an upcoming congressional hearing on digital assets. Deaton, who is known for representing over 75,000 XRP holders, we all know the story there. He said something in the LBRY case as well. So his offer to testify comes from his extensive experience, and he wants to pawn that Gary Gensler for good, because he knows Gary's been causing the crypto community a lot of trouble. Recently, he's not just been about XRP, because that case is essentially over. He's actually trying to get all of crypto clarity and getting new rules for crypto. Of course, like, he's going to take this chance if he gets to testify to specifically criticize SEC Chair Gary Gensler, which I think will be actually welcomed by a lot of senators and congressmen, because there is a whole group of people in Congress that do actually not like Gary Gensler. He's going to talk in favor of Coinbase, in favor of Ripple, and in favor of all these companies that the SEC could potentially sue. And I do think, like, the legal ramifications and the SEC's legal losses are the reason they haven't actually pursued actions against basically all these other crypto companies, because they're not sure they can win, and every loss tends to pile up on them. His outspoken stance mirrors a growing sentiment among crypto enthusiasts and investors who feel their interests are often sidelined in regulatory discussions. So obviously he wants to represent like the crypto public. So about the hearing itself, it'll focus on the Financial Stability Oversight Council's changing designation framework on innovation. So it's very important that like the framework and the regulations talked about in the framework are friendly to crypto, because if they're unfriendly to crypto, it may make it really hard to operate within the United States. And of course, the FOSC has reiterated the need for Congress to enact legislation addressing risks associated with cryptocurrencies, but also not to stifle the market innovation, which is something that they're finding very, very hard to balance. Gary Gensler obviously does not care about stifling innovation. He just wants the SEC to have power over crypto. And a lot of this is like resting Gary Gensler's reputation on the line, because if the SEC loses jurisdiction and loses power over crypto, it's going to be on Gary Gensler. And when he applies for that Secretary of the Treasury job, it's going to look really bad if the SEC loses a bunch of cases and loses their complete jurisdiction to the over crypto to another agency, or if he just scores loss after loss after loss, which is actually what's happening right now. So that's why he was so desperate for that Terra Luna win, because one of the few wins he's scored recently. So I'm hoping that John Deaton does get to testify, and he will use this chance to excoriate and pawn Gary Gensler for good. So that's the news for today. Let me know what you think. Like and subscribe. Hit that bell notifications button. Thank you, and have a nice day.